Well, hello and welcome to Fun Fantasy FPL. My name is Harry.
Hello, Stephen Barry.
And on this week's show, after we've reviewed our game week performances, we're going to have to talk about the elephant in the room, the derby that has not gone the way of my team, but has gone the way of Stephen's. We've also got a topic to discuss about teams that have surprised us in both a positive and a negative way. And we've got a new section, an innovation that I thought about in the shower about half an hour before we started recording. But I think it's going to be great. I think you're going to love it. So to kick off, let's talk about how our teams did this week. So Stephen, why don't you kick us off and tell us how your team performed?
So I had a very good week. I had a good week. It's one of those lovely weeks where both fantasy and real life football come together. 1-0 to the Arsenal. 1-0 to the Arsenal. So my faith at the start of the season in having Arsenal defenders worked very well there. I didn't have Gabriel before anyone asks, but hey, that's unfortunate. Sanchez in goal was also an absolute hero for me. And I think finally some of my cheaper options have started to come in. Ahmad and Vardy both got returns to me. Ahmad is at Man U is slowly accumulating points. I think he's gotten the permanent position now on the right wing for Man U. I think Garnacho and Rashford will rotate on the other side. And then Vardy scored as well, which was great. And then Watkins was my captain against Everton. Very reliable there. So even though I didn't have Haaland, who again scored, I got 73 points and I climbed 2 million places. So yeah, I had a very good week.
That's an absolutely unbelievable performance by you, Stephen, because not only did you captain Watkins, but you also got the Vardy 8-pointer. I think Ahmad, I think he's a great alternative to a Rodgers at 5 million as well. I think he might have gone up in price because Man United players do. I know he said at 5.
No, his ownership has actually. I was actually going to talk to you about Rodgers. Have you lost patience with him because he hasn't scored? The guy coming off of the bench is the one, Duran. I think Ahmad's value is going to go up. I'm surprised he hasn't gone up already, but it's going to go up soon.
Yeah, I mean, the jokes write themselves about Duran, but we'll leave that alone. And I think, look, Rodgers had a one-on-one against Pickford at the weekend and, hit it straight at the keeper. And I think what's going to be more telling for me and more determining on what I do with Rodgers is what happens in the European games. Because obviously we've got those European games starting. You're going to see a lot more rotation. I think it's going to call into question, as we talked about at the beginning of the season, how thin or how thick, as it been maybe suggested, that Aston Villa's team is. I mean, Matheson started, I believe, at the weekend.
No, still Luca Digne. I'm still very bitter about
still
that.
Digne.
It's still Digne, and he got another assist at the weekend. All those Matheson points that should have been mine. Going to Digne.
But then Matheson should have got an assist as well because he played it into Watkins, and Watkins could have got the hat-trick, and you would have been laughing. So look, I think what will determine my decision on Rodgers is more his appearance points. So, not his appearance points, more his starts in the European games. If he doesn't start that much in European games, then I'm going to keep him, mainly because 5 million attacking midfielders in decent teams are hard to come by. I think moving into an Ahmad or someone like that, I think it's a bit of a sideways move. And I back Aston Villa more than I do Man United, and I think his minutes are more guaranteed.
Okay, fair enough.
So I'm not. I mean, it's upsetting that he missed a sitter, but it's good that he's at least getting them. But that's my thing. My main frustration this week, and I think I always like to think that FPL comes in ebbs and flows throughout the season. I clearly rode a wave of Salah and Haaland in my team for the first 3 game weeks. But unfortunately, that wave has now crashed down when Salah didn't get anything. And, none of my defence returned. Robinson was 6 minutes away from a clean sheet and 2 bonus points. I made the mistake that listeners never do this. I looked at the bonus points about 5 minutes before the end of full time. If you do that, you are guaranteeing that your defender will lose points. So that was very, very frustrating. Palace conceding in the first minute to the absolute shithouse that is Jamie Vardy didn't help. I celebrated at Lewis Hall starting a game, and then he fucking concedes 30 minutes in to fucking Wolves, right? Furious. Like, when I was writing my notes on this, I was ranting. And you probably can't read my handwriting anyway, but it is awful at this moment. And then Jan Bednarek, I started him. Yes, you heard that. I started Jan Bednarek. My dreams of a back post header, to kill Man United hearts. I mean, it was just too delicious to look at. And obviously, Everton are trash. So I started him. He got 1 point. I was disappointed, but not surprised. My major concern, my major annoyance was the fact that 2 transfers I didn't work. So I transferred it out in Nkunku and Muniz. Obviously, Muniz at Fulham, doesn't matter. He scored 2 points, no problem. But Nkunku came off the bench and scored, didn't he? And João Pedro, who I brought in, didn't even fucking start because, listeners, this is another lesson for you lovely people. Don't make early transfers. I transferred in João Pedro and Matoma very early on. Then I realised that João Pedro was being flown out to Brazil last minute to cover for some injury. And so therefore he had to make the 14 or the 15-hour trip back about 2 days before he was supposed to start. It never happened because of the jet lag and the travel. So listeners, really heed my advice. Do not make early transfers. This week even more because of the European fixtures. Isaac, no idea where he is nowadays. Probably down the shops.
But he went up injured, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, something about his eye. Lord knows what I'm going to do about that. But I want to keep him I wanted to keep him for the value. But then guess what, Stephen? Lots of people have been transferring him out, so he's lost 0.1 million. Which is a fucking joke.
Have you got any money in the bank? Can you get Watkins? Right.
No, I've got none. But my plan is this: that I think next week Isaac and Matoma are on the. I won't make any transfers this week because I brought in Matoma and João Pedro for 2 fixtures, not for 1. Depending on the João Pedro thing, I think he will start. He'll come back. He's just obviously tired from the trip and everything else. And from the sounds of it, it didn't seem like it was a major problem, and that's the reason why he was not playing. But I think Matoma might have to go because he's just too expensive to keep without doing much. And then his next couple of fixtures after this week are pretty trash. So I was going to take him out from Buemo and then take Isaac down to I think I had up enough money for 6.9 or maybe 6.5. And that was going to be Wissa, but now he's out for 3 months. So yeah, look, I'm frustrated, listeners. I'm sure you can hear it. It's been a disappointing week. I did finish on 54 points, so not crazy bad. A bit of a red arrow, but I sit still around the 700,000. But and I have to give a shout out though to our producer, right, who has Sanchez as well, Stephen, scored a massive 68 points, right, and is on 312 points overall.
Wow.
I know. And the only decisions I've encouraged her to do have been the wrong ones.
So she's beating both of us right now.
She's only just entered the mini league of the podcast, which, by the way, listeners, if you haven't done, please do. But she will be going right to the top by about 30 points. And I'm looking up now. She is 54,000th in the world. Unbelievable.
So not only is she the brains behind this podcast, she's also the talent as well. I mean, what are you and I doing? We should really just give up and just give her the mic now.
But yeah, look, I've said I'm not going to make any transfers. You obviously love a transfer on the pod. Are you going to be resistant this week? Wait for those European fixtures to clear, or have you got something in mind now?
No, I'm very happy that I don't have to make any transfers this week. But advice to those out there. So one thing I got right this season about Arsenal is that they were going to be good defensively, even though they had a tough start. They weren't going to concede many goals, but there would be a bit under the cosh. And I thought that the defenders would get the bonus points. The person who did get the bonus points was Raya. So if you're sat there with 3-4 transfers in the back and you can afford him, I think Raya has to go straight into your team. Basically, he's seriously outperforming all the other goalkeepers until Sanchez's monster points haul, but Sanchez, let's be frank, isn't going to do that every week. Chelsea conceded a lot of goals. So if you can afford Raya, I would seriously consider getting him as soon as possible. Arsenal play Man City next, so a lot of people will
Yeah.
be. Well, that's the thing. So a lot of people will be holding off going for. Timber's probably the best person to go for because he's the cheapest. A lot of people will probably be holding off going for Arsenal defenders, but you don't have to play them. If you've got an eye on an Arsenal defender, go now because White, Saliba, Timber in particular are all going to
Yeah,
skyrocket.
5.5 for Timber. That's cheap. And
Exactly.
he's only 1.1% owned.
Yeah, there you go. He's going to skyrocket in price. Do you know? I'm actually tempted to do that transfer now just to lock in the value, but I won't. On my team, I've still got triple Spurs. We can talk about them as part of the derby section. But a lot of I've got players with easy fixtures by and large. And Barry, the thing that will please you more than anything else in the world is I am captaining Jamie Vardy, who has Everton at home.
A reasonable captain choice. Everton are garbage, as we know.
Oh.
They can't hold on to a lead. It's just like a blind man looking for a nickel. It is not going to happen for them. Genuinely can't believe. It kind of bleeds into the topic later, but yeah, we'll cover that. But look, I like Arsenal. The fixtures after Man City are incredible. They have three unbelievable fixtures after. They've got Leicester at home, Southampton at home, so two newly promoted clubs, and Bournemouth away. They then have a slightly trickier period with Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea. But honestly, I think, Raya has outperformed what I thought he would. And I'm not a big fan of expensive goalkeepers, but if I was going to go with one keeper all season, I think he'd be my choice. So no transfers, Stephen. We can't rattle you into that. I'm sure we can find a methodology.
I've sort of rattled myself into getting Timber because it's 1% earned.
Can you afford it?
Yeah, I can afford him. I can sell Pedro Porro. I could sell Matson. Matson, I'm going to keep the faith with a little bit longer. Given
Stephen, what faith are you going to? Because man, I need to convert to that church because you have way too much faith in that player. He hasn't started any of the games,
but he's so good, and I just do not understand how Luca Digny has been getting loads of assists, loads of points. Matson will surely have to come into the team. Luca Digny will get sent off for a karate kick or something like that. Your injury in Europe, he has surely got to come into that team at some point.
No, but the thing is, Stephen Digne has played in the Premier League longer, so I reckon he's going to play Digne in the Prem and Matheson in European games. That has to be the formula.
Well, keep it under review. I mean, I'll be honest with you, he's currently third on my bench right now, so that faith isn't limitless. But I could do Matheson to Timber now. That would be a very safe thing to do. But I'd be doing that.
Well, let's move on to the next topic, and maybe we can rattle you through that. The derby.
Yes.
Stephen, before you get more gloating, and I'm sure I deserve it, I want to have a little bit of a rant.
Okay.
So look. XG is great. Putting good performances together is great. But at the end of the day, you got to put the ball in the back of the fucking net, as Harry Redknapp would say, my terrible Harry Redknapp impression. And it seemed like to me on all of the the coverage of the game, sadly I couldn't watch it. Based on all the stats in the game, I thought we were dominating. And if you looked at all of the numbers that were coming through, the shots, the possession stats, all that sort of stuff. But then if you looked at the big chances created, they were all on Arsenal's side. Yeah. And conceding from a corner is fine. It's going to happen occasionally. Fine. But we had some big chances. Do you know, I saw a clip of, there was a moment where Solanke was, maybe it was in the first half. Solanke had the ball sort of just outside the area and there was no one in front of him apart from the keeper. No one. And in the time it took him to get the ball out of his foot, Gabriel had got across, or was it Sleep? One of the Arsenal defenders had come across and blocked the shot. I mean, you look at the freeze frames. He is at least 3 or 4 meters away from Solanke, and he still gets there before Solanke is able to put the shot in. Now that's just experience for me. That's just not just banging the fucker, right? And look, I'm a big Ange fan. I'm not like Ange out or anything like that. I believe in the project. I believe in what he's trying to do. I think his comments after the game, I win something in my second season. That's just setting yourself up to fail. I mean, to a certain extent, I kind of want him to shut the fuck up and just kind of fix what's there. But we've spent a lot of money. We've got a decent team, and honestly, and this is a hint to this is a nod to the topic later. The teams that I've been surprised with in a negative way has been Tottenham, because we've just not strung the performances together to match the results. We've done what Graham Potter did when he was at Brighton. You know, when he went on that massive winless run with like the biggest XG but no results. You know? And I've heard Spurs fans talk about how Son might be the problem and how we might need to get Graham Potter in. I mean, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think I can take credit for Son because he's in my fantasy team, so that's probably the tombstone around his neck. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Son isn't playing well. Is that age? Yeah, I don't think he was not good in the derby. I watched him against Leicester. He looked okay. I mean, maybe I'm judging him by his own very high bar, but I don't think he's hit the heights that he's been nowhere near hitting the heights that he normally does. And I think Spurs fans are right to say to call him the problem would be a bit harsh.
Yeah,
but he certainly isn't playing well.
yeah. No, I'll accept that he isn't playing well, but none of the team is. Why is Son the lightning rod for that? You know, like I think that the thing we have to really bear in mind is that Son is a bit of a leader on the pitch, and he provides a real outlet. He's a real threat. He's still got the pace. He might be slightly older, but he's not fucking like, you know, Lewandowski old. Like he's still a young guy. He's got the pace. He's got the threat. And you know what? The thing is that the thing I find really difficult about the fans in this day and age is they become so fickle. You know, they see a bad performance and they think, well, he's a problem. He's the thing. Get this done. You know, whatever. And it's just that's not how football is. You know, and Ange is trying to set a different way of playing. And look, it's going to be painful. Look, let's be real. Arsenal are the better team right now. They just aren't. They've put a project together. And look, we all laughed at Arteta. I say we all, you probably didn't. We all laughed at Arteta, you know, when the first couple of seasons and everyone was saying, oh, he's Pep Guardiola's cone boy. He wasn't actually as he puts the cones out, Pep Guardiola, you know, it was never like, you know, he was never really judged as being a good manager. But to his credit, he's built a project. The board backed him and allowed him to spend big. He's built a team that can win this championship. Right, and Spurs have tried to do that, and they've done it with a manager that was relatively unknown but likes to play the beautiful game. That is okay. I don't mind that. I just think maybe someone needs to sit Ange down and just kind of say, "Look, is this the right way of doing things? Can we not be more pragmatic at times? Can we not play a high line?"
Don't hire him then. It wasn't exactly a secret what his style was and what his preferences was. Spurs fans went into the Spurs board went in with full expectations of that. I think that's probably why Ange is frustrated right now. Is that look, you hired me and my style and my reputation was well known. I'm playing the way that I think the game should be played. If you don't like that, that's absolutely fine. Sack me or maybe don't hire me in the first place. But like, if you want a pragmatic manager, get Graham Potter then, you know. And look, I think, I think on Spurs, I think first of all, Arsenal sat back, right? So I think to judge them on, sort of one of the best teams of the league, sitting back and not being able to break them down, I think it's a bit harsh. Arsenal are very good defensively, best defense of the league last season. Let's sort of, calm down. This being said, the next two games for Spurs are crucial. Brentford at home, probably a must win. And then Man U away. Now look, they're both winnable games, let's be frank, but they're also both losable games. And if they lose both, do you think Ange is gone?
No. Spurs hire for the long term. They won't. I mean, unless it's Conte or unless he does a Conte. I think he's
on that track.
He's not though. He's not though. He's not coming out and criticising this is how Tottenham are. Like, he's not doing that. I had to say Tottenham's run is quite tricky. Like if I look at the next couple of fixtures, so like you said, we've got Brentford at home. That is not an easy game. No. It's not an easy game. Brentford are a good team. Then you've got Man United away. I mean, we could upset them, but we rarely do. Brighton away. That's a game we could lose. That's 4:30 on the Sunday, right? That's a fixture we could lose. Then we got West Ham at home. That is their FA Cup final, so they will turn up with everything going forward. Palace away, we've lost that before, and then Villa at home, and then we come to some nicer fixtures in game week 11 with it, Ipswich. I say nice fixture. We got Ipswich, and we got Man City away. I mean, we've got a bit of a tough run of it. In short, I wouldn't be investing in Spurs assets right now. You've got free, so Lord knows what you're going to do. But look, we talked a bit about Tottenham, or quite a bit about Tottenham. Let's talk about Arsenal. What did you like of what you saw? A couple of weeks ago, I said, is that the title over when we were talking about Man City? Man City are 4 from 4, but Arsenal sit on 10 points. What is your view of the season so far? Where do you think Arsenal are going? Do you think they have what it takes this year to go over the line?
I just think, they can. The problem is obviously just Man City and they've got Haaland. They basically got a cheat code. In terms of what I liked about them, the fact that we didn't have Rice, the fact that we didn't have Odegaard, we were still able to grind out a 1-0 away from at home against our rivals, I think is very satisfying. I don't, we haven't really made too many signings on Calafiori, who's been injured, obviously. So the team hasn't changed too much. I don't think we've learned anything that new about Arsenal. I think one thing that is a big problem, and again, this isn't anything new, is everything attacking-wise is Saka. Especially with Odegaard out now as well. It was very, very clear our attacking strategy is a little bit Ronaldo at his peak, i.e. lob the ball to him and hope. Havertz needs to be doing more, in my opinion. He does that at times. He can be great one week and then just completely absent the other. He needs to be doing a lot more just to be helping Saka drifting about a bit more, because it's quite obvious what our attacking plan is, basically. Martinelli, I don't really know what's happened to him. He seems to have gone off the boil. So yeah, I'd say defensively excellent from an attacking standpoint. It's very much give it to Saka and hope for the best. But that being said, Saka has, as you know, hauled pretty well. I'd say, if anything, the next two transfers you have to do, and soon, would be Timber and Saka, basically.
12 points, 6 points, 6.7 points. It's pretty decent return. Yeah. I think it's outscoring Palmer in doing that, and about a similar price. So, yeah, look, well, if Saka's your outball, then I think Man City probably know that for the next game. I'll be starting Saka away to Man City, and I'll be starting Haaland at home to Arsenal. What would be your score prediction for that game?
My heart says 1-0 Arsenal. Head says 1-0 Man City.
Yeah, I to be honest, I think it's one of those games. It's gonna be so tactical, it'll be fucking dull as shit.
It'll be awful. It'll be absolutely awful. Yeah.
Because no one will want to lose, because you lose this early in the season.
The 0-0 last season was one of the worst games of the season between Man City and Arsenal. It was so boring.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you lose this early in the season against your big title rivals, it says such a message. The correspondence and the media right for themselves. I honestly think that Arsenal will be going there to draw. But having said that, what changes title challengers into title winners is going to a ground like City and thinking, go on, we'll have a go. We'll have a go. I don't know who it was, but someone said the same thing about Man United, that, previously teams would turn up to Man United and think, oh, we better not lose here. Let's shut up shop and reverse it. But every team that goes to Man United now thinks they can have a go, because Man United are not. They're a shadow of what they were. And I think that if you have that mentality of, let's put the guard up, let's try not to concede, I think Arsenal might lose that game. So I really hope that instead of playing the boring football and the 0-0s and going for the draw or going for the counter attack, whatever, I hope that Arteta goes there with an attacking mindset, because he should do. He's got an attacking team, a good team, a young team, and a team that can beat Man City and can hurt them. Wissa scored in the first minute against Man City this week, and Pep Guardiola said it could have been 3-0. So I think they should be just copying and pasting that attack plan, because they've got better players than Brentford.
I'm going to completely disagree with that. As somebody who's grown up watching...
You disagree with Pep?
Well, that's a very... I'm disagreeing with you, Barry. As somebody who's grown up watching teams actually win leagues, if you look at Arsenal last season, they got, I think it was 4 points at City, 4 points off Liverpool. I'm not really going to talk about the rest of the big six. That obviously doesn't count. But the reason why they lost the league was that, like, it was away at Villa. We had lost to Fulham. Like, it was just
You
stupid
drew
game
at Aston
performances.
Villa.
Yeah,
Oh, you lost to Aston Villa. Lost to
lost
Aston
to
Villa.
Aston Villa. We lost to Fulham. Like, it was like a bad run around before we went on the Dubai trip. So it wasn't our performances against the big teams. We beat Man City and drew. Liverpool, I think, again. Did we draw again at Anfield? I can't remember. But either way,
Yeah, you drew. Yeah.
yeah.
Zinchenko got turned inside out, I remember.
Yeah, so we did well against the big teams. That wasn't the problem, is that we didn't beat teams that we should be beating,
Yeah.
or should have been beating. We lost at home to West Ham, which is another bad one. So Arteta, there's not a chance in hell we're going to go out there and attack. I think a 0-0 is a very good result for Arsenal, let's be frank. And the game is probably going to be very boring, but I don't think Arsenal should be going there to win. That is incredibly risky and just not necessary when you're very happy with a 0-0. You can get a 0-0. Actually, last season, the best chance fell to Arsenal. I think it was Trossard who fluffed his lines in the end.
Yeah.
So, no, he's not going to go. I don't think Arsenal should go there and attack them. If we end up, losing 1-0, so be it. But the strategy is correct to defend and not to concede, essentially.
Okay, cool. Well, look, let's wrap up that section. I think what you can hear from us listeners is a very pissed off and annoyed, but still relatively positive Spurs fan, and a negative but happy and confident Arsenal fan. Looking for a boring 0-0 against Man City away next week. So interesting state of affairs that the derby leads us in. But we're going to move on and discuss the other topic we wanted to talk about this week, which is we both have been thinking about 3 teams that we are more positively surprised with this season after 4 games, based on what we've seen. And we're going to point out a few players and a few bits and pieces maybe you've missed, and give you some ideas to sort of look at those teams again. And 3 teams that have negatively surprised you. So, Steve, why don't you kick us off and talk us about a couple of teams that have negatively. Let's start negative and let's end positive. So let's say a couple of teams that have negatively surprised you from the games you've seen them in.
Spurs is definitely one of them. I've got triple Spurs in my team. I think you're going to cover that, so I'll let the expert there cover it. Fulham had a very, very easy start and have done nothing. I think a very big telltale sign of if a team is really struggling is the manager losing his head over nothing. So Marco Silva came out with this bizarre rant where Adama Traore fluffed his lines, fell over, saying Stonewall. It's absolutely bizarre. He just looks like a man who knows he's getting sacked pretty soon. So, I'm actually looking. Fulham would be one to, I think, start targeting. I don't know what their fixtures are coming up. I'll have a quick look at that now.
They're not great. They're not great. Yeah. I mean, they got Newcastle, and Forest. Okay, fine, but Forest have to beat Liverpool. Then they got Man City, Aston Villa, again Everton, trash. But okay, Brentford, Palace, Wolves. So sort of hitting those mid-tables into November, and then Spurs, Brighton, Arsenal, Liverpool. So it's a mixed run. It's not. You are right. They have had a good rub of the fixtures from the start, and they're currently sitting on 5 points on 4 games. They're sitting at 12.
Yeah. So I think if you've got Isaac, keep the faith with him for one more game week basically, and then review.
Well, other FPL players don't. Thanks for losing me 0.1 on my player, you absolute bastards. A lot of you.
Wow, we'll see if we'll see how bad for them are. I mean, obviously, if Isaac plays, of course, depending on how his injury is. And then West Ham. Well, more specifically, Kudus. That's probably more some bitterness that he was one of my early picks in my draft team, and he's looked absolutely incredible and done absolutely nothing. There was always a risk under Locatelli of getting at the West Ham attacking players. It's not his way. He's a more defensively minded manager. But I sort of thought Kudus could be their Saka. Basically, all the balls go to him, and he's setting up Bowen, and just hasn't really clicked. West Ham just look a bit meh, really. So
Yeah.
I would say that West Ham, Spurs, and Fulham in particular have been worse than I thought they would be.
Yeah, I mean, and look, West Ham have got some tough fixtures. They haven't had the greatest starts, but they've got Chelsea next, then Liverpool away, Brentford away, Ipswich okay, then they've got us, United, Forest, Everton, Newcastle, Arsenal. So it's a it's a bitty run is what I would call it. But they currently sit just below us actually at 14th on 4 points. We only eclipsed them because of goal difference. So not great, not great.
Ah,
And actually, funny enough, your teams you've picked are Fulham in 12th, Spurs in 13th, and West Ham in 14th. So
oh, there you go.
clearly got a run in mind. From my side, yeah, I'll talk about Spurs at the end, but I've already covered quite a bit of it. Yeah, so negatively, I'm going to say Palace, Crystal Palace, right? I know they lost to Elise, and he scored in his, I think, debut start against one of the newly promoted clubs in the Bundesliga. But losing him clearly has had an impact. They then sold Joachim Anderson to Fulham, which seems like a sideways move. So Lord knows why they've done that. They sold Sam Johnson to Wolves, who's now starting over Jose Sarr. Which I mean, I'm a big fan of Sam Johnson, but is that an upgrade? I don't know. Henderson, I always rate in goal anyway, but they defensively, clearly they're playing nicer football, interesting football, but I just don't see like a team there that can keep them comfortably in that mid-table position of seasons gone past. They're currently sitting at 16th with 2 points, -3 under goal difference. And I just kind of think to myself, they've had okay teams to play. They've not
Yeah,
had a terrible run. I mean, they were 2-0 down against newly promoted Leicester, who currently sit above them in the league. They shouldn't be in that position. They've got a 1-1 against Chelsea, but, look, Chelsea are not great. They lost to West Ham, and they've also lost to Brentford. Although, admittedly, the ref might have had something to do about that.
not only did they lose, they were 2-0 down to Leicester. The Mateta goal to make it 2-1, very questionable as well. So
No, 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 no.
they needed good fortune to beat
No,
Leicester.
no. That's you look at it. He is quite a way off. Yeah, no, I'm willing to back the officials and the red lines on that one. But look, they've got an okay couple of fixtures coming up. I mean, the next one's not great at home to Man United, but they've beaten there before. Then they've got Everton, Liverpool, Forest, us. Wolves, Fulham, Villa, Newcastle. So it's an okay run, but I worry for them because they've sold a couple of their really key players, and I don't think they've replaced those with the same caliber of player. So I'm worried about Palace. I like Palace. They're a good team, and I've been away to them once or twice, and they're a nice place to go. Fans are relatively friendly, so I hope they're okay, but I'm worried about them.
Just on them as their
Yeah,
I think a lot of people have as just like it's 25% owned. If you're saying that sort of Palace aren't going to do much, Martinelli is 6.9. He's going to start now with Odegaard out. Trossard's going to start every week. He's
yeah.
6.9. Rashford,
Well,
it's a bit of a
that'd be
risk,
rogue.
but
That'd be rogue.
if you're looking for someone quite rogue, Rashford is there. But Martinelli, Gibbs,
Yeah.
White, I mean Barnes. There's loads and loads of good options at his price point, basically.
Do you not
So
think it's a straight? If you've got it, is it not a straight swap from Mbemo? From game week 6, Brentford had a great run.
almost 200,000 more. So
Yeah,
but if you can afford him, then
that's not that
yeah,
much of a stretch, Like I mean, if you sold another player at the same time, I'd be recommending Mbemo. But yeah, there's some interesting players in that 6 million, 6.5 bracket. Um, yeah, certainly. So yeah, but I wouldn't be sitting on Eze for too much longer. Although it was
mm.
funny that as soon as lots of people sold him, he scored against Chelsea. But so we could have predicted that, couldn't we? Because we clearly love Chelsea on this pod.
They do.
Yes. So, but just going on my other teams that natively made an impact on me, I'm going to say Everton. And I think it's because I didn't realise how shit they could be.
Yeah.
You know, like I love Dyche. I love what he tries to do about the game. You know, I think he's. I mean, I think did I see when he was at Burnley or a game I can't remember when it was, a couple of seasons ago. He actually managed to put a team together that was 1 to 11 with the numbers on the back of the shirt on the pitch.
Oh, glorious.
Glorious. How football's supposed to be. None of this woke nonsense.
Yeah, and the DM was number 4 as well.
Yeah,
Not none of
yeah.
this,
Jack
none of this
Cork.
number 6 utter woke nonsense. None of that.
Yeah. So for those that don't get the after woke nonsense, just Google the meme Sean Dyche utter woke nonsense, and you'll understand it. But yeah, no, I'm really surprised, and I bet he is as well because Everton aren't a bad team individually. You know, DCL seems to be putting his hand up, and I actually think it's an FPL option, but we'll come back to that. You know, and I think that they do have some okay players there. It's just for some reason they've just got such a weak mentality. You know, as soon as Bournemouth scored before the international break, there was murmur around the crowd. So I think the fans got to take responsibility for that. But also on the pitch, the players got nervous. They got worried.
Yeah.
They didn't back themselves to hold on to that lead. And let's be real, at Villa, DCL should have scored 2 more goals and they should have been outside. It should have been 4-5-2, maybe 5-3. No, I was going to say they missed some really key chances in that game. They should not have lost that game. They've lost that game out of, engineered out of their own, weak mentality. And the reason why I put them in this category is because they are just so unbelievably bad. I just didn't realize how bad they were.
Well, I think on them, they sold Anana, and we are in the era of the DM. The DM is one of your most important, is arguably now the most important player on the pitch, and I think we're sort of seeing how good he was, because their defenders, people that we thought were okay, like Mikalenko and people like they're not looking good. And actually, just going through their back four, Keane, Coleman, Branthwaite's injured, Tarkovsky, Ashley Young.
I mean, Brathwaite is an impact. Brathwaite is a loss.
Sure,
They miss him.
But well, either way, he's out, and then I'm guessing Doucouré's injured as well.
Yeah, but he's never really matched his goals ratio or assist ratio like he did at Watford before he came. But yeah, I really hope they are okay to an extent. But I also think,
well, so that was the point I was going to make,
yeah.
which is that about the fans and all that sort of stuff. There's obviously there's the financial stuff as well. The players must know that if Everton go down, that could be it. They have this brand new stadium that they need to pay off.
Playing in the Championship.
Yeah, imagine if you're a player thinking like, oh, I could be one of the players who bankrupts Everton. I mean, obviously it's not directly involved and stuff like that, but if you're one-on-one thinking like, if I don't score this, I literally could be one of the people who's partly responsible for Everton disappearing. That can't be good. That cannot help you as a professional.
I don't think they're going to disappear.
Well, I mean, they're not in a good position. How many points did they have last season? I've lost count now, but as far as I understand, I mean, the people who want to learn more about this, the Price of Football is an excellent podcast on this. But sort of I won't claim to be an expert on this, but my sort of rudimentary understanding is that if they get relegated, they're in big trouble. Big trouble.
Yeah. I mean, I could buy that. I mean, I think the words that ring true with me is more about the football on the pitch rather than the football off the pitch. It's the thing that, I'm not sure if you remember the commentary, and often we do remember the commentary in big games and important moments in football. When Sunderland got relegated after years of performing great escape after great escape after great escape, I think must have been Clyde Tilsley or someone like that. It just went, this is what happens when you are constantly scrapping for your lives.
Yeah.
Eventually you fail. And that is what I feel about Everton. They have been in this position consistently for 3 or 4 seasons, and whether it's the board, whether it's the manager, whether it's the players, I don't know, it's probably an amalgamation of all of those things, but they have just bought badly, they have done business badly, and I think to a certain extent they deserve to go down for that. And that's not the fans' fault, that's not the players' fault to an extent. That is just piss poor management. And you look at a team like Brighton, who are just unbelievable at managing a football club. You know, they scrapped their way up to the top with no finances. I remember not crazy long ago when Leyton Orient in League One were playing against Brighton,
Yeah.
right? And now they're in they're in the Premier League and they're doing really well and they're never going to go down and they're always in a good place and they're always finding these players out of nowhere that just turn out to be amazing. You know, like I feel for Everton fans, but I think the club is a bit of a lunatic asylum, and unfortunately, they just every season find themselves in this position, and there has to be punishment for that. And it also would be funny to see that new stadium in the Championship. But it would also do, just quickly, if they do get relegated, it will mean that there's only 4 teams in Premier League history never to get relegated.
Arsenal, Man U, Spurs, Liverpool.
I think that's the 4. Yeah.
Okay. Just to bring it back to FPL, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is 5.9. Why would you pick him over Jamie Vardy? Jamie Vardy's 5.6.
So, I think game time. I think that DCL is going to get more game time, assuming he stays fit. I think that for whatever reason, and look, DCL has not signed a new contract with Everton, so he is playing in his last year at Everton. So that means if they get relegated, he doesn't give a shit, and he's rejected a couple of lucrative offers for new contracts at Everton. And everything I'm hearing from Everton fans that I speak to is that he is essentially putting himself in the shop window and saying, "Hey guys, come buy me." Now, to do that, he actually has to score some goals and do some decent things. Now, on another day, he could have had a hat trick at Aston Villa, a hat trick, right? And DCL has never really lost the knack of scoring goals. He's just been injured a lot. And if he puts together a run of staying fit in that Everton team, he will get chances. He will score goals. Like if you get a 5.9 or 5.7, £1 million striker on an FPL, and they are scoring 10, 12 goals in the season, and maybe get a handful of assists, that's a pretty good return. And I think for that extra spot when we're looking for value in different players, the other thing is Jamie Vardy. I mean, he's going to come off on 70 every time, every single fucking game. So I wonder whether the minutes on the pitch and the fact that he's got something to prove and clearly a value to be sparked, he could end up in Saudi or something, but he's still putting himself in the shop window. So I would lean towards DCL. And maybe we should put a bet on it for the end of the season. Who knows?
Do you know about it? I don't actually hate it. I mean, I personally would stick more so with Vardy, just given the fact that he still seems to have got it, his proven record. Yes, he is going to. I think also Cooper's going to manage Vardy pretty well. I think he knows that he needs to get the most out of him to have any chance of staying up. But I don't hate DCL as an option at all. Sorry, but one thing we forgot to mention was even though we think these teams aren't very good, are there any sort of gems in there? I think Emil Smith-Rowe at Fulham he's going to play every week. He's going to quietly accumulate points for his price.
Off my bench.
There you go. And then in terms of who was the other team I said I was disappointed with?
Oh, and West Ham. West Ham was the other one.
West Ham. Bowen's too expensive. Curtis is too expensive. Yeah, no one at West Ham is maybe. I mean, maybe Fulkrug if he starts playing, he could be one to keep an eye on. But who West Ham players on? Is it Bowen plays as the false 9?
Yeah, Bowen. Then you've got Wan-Bissaka.
Wan-Bissaka's not a bad shot actually.
Was it Max Kilman? He got a nice assist in the 15-pointer away at Crystal Palace, and people were talking about him. But yeah, look, I think there's a lot of value in those players. I think Bowen's a bit too expensive for me. I'd be interested in Wan-Bissaka, an ex-West Ham player, which I'm just going to drop in there, has gone to in Maxwell Corner. Has gone to Southampton. Could be interesting, but unlikely to be. And I'll do my final team that I'm disappointed in is obviously Tottenham. I've mentioned it previously. I am a Tottenham fan and therefore will always be disappointed in my team. We've not played well, I don't think. I don't think we deserve to be any higher than we are. And I think that Ange needs to really kind of think to himself, like, should he play ball a bit more pragmatically in some games? But look, when it works, it's brilliant and it looks great and it pleases on the eye. But I just think sometimes pragmatism is needed. That's all I'm going to say because I've said enough. Do you want to, Stephen? Do you want to cover? And in terms of players, obviously, Solanke's great, Oro's great. I'm glad I didn't start with any Tottenham players. I don't think I'll be owning any Tottenham players in the meantime. They mainly because they don't have a run. They don't really have a run looking at their fixtures. So I won't be going near. But yeah, let's go into a more positive string, shall we, Stephen?
Positive. So yeah, I mean, look again. Liverpool were better than I thought. I think the Nottingham Forest defeat though does sort of reinforce that they'll be third, maybe fourth again. But they have the second best defense in the league. So Robertson, Trent, is Canate starting along VVD? He must be.
Canate starting,
yeah. As a nice. I think depending on what sort of your strategy is and your budget is, I think Liverpool defenders are very attractive and will be for the rest of the season. Fair play to James Henshaw for saying that as well. Saying that Liverpool would actually keep a lot more clean sheets this season. I will admit that he was right over me on that one. You're probably not going to like this one, but actually, no, I'll go to them later. The other team that I've been positively surprised by is Ipswich, Barry. You have convinced me that actually
the Mighty Tractor Boys. Come on.
Yeah, you've actually convinced me. I mean, all their players now look really interesting. I like Davis, Tunsabi, I believe is 4 million. Is it Greaves? One of the defenders is 4 million. I can't remember which one it is. It's
Greaves.
I think if I was going to go rogue, and believe me, I'm tempted. Omari Hutchinson for the next few weeks. He's very, very tempting. I won't lie. I'm not sure. I can't remember what his price is, but I think he's very cheap. But they've definitely done the best so far. The promoted teams, like Southampton, they have a style, but it seems to be a bit more balanced than what Southampton are doing. And then the last team I've been positively surprised by, we mentioned them earlier, is actually Chelsea. They're getting points. Despite having this huge squad, they're picking a pretty consistent team. I think the manager knows what he's doing, and I think they're actually going to go from strength to strength throughout the season. And they've got a lot of relatively cheap options. I would like to see who are going to be there. So Sancho, is he going to come into the team over Neto? How long is Jackson going to be keeping his place? I don't know. I think we need a little bit more info. Daizayi, he's now their right back, given Gusto and James are both injured as well, so he's probably a nailed on one. But Chelsea have been okay. They've gotten results. They've played some good football at times. They've been a positive surprise. I don't think you need to go for Cole Palmer given his price. I think they've got a few other interesting players attacking wise. Once we have more confirmation about who their front four will be, so the three around Palmer, those guys become whoever they may be, will become very interesting assets.
Yeah, no, cool, interesting, and great to hear that you converted to the mighty Ipswich, and everything they're trying to do there, because clearly, they're putting something together. They've got an interesting couple of players as well. I really like Davis in our producers team, I might add, and definitely thinking about coming into mine. I like Hutchinson as well, and I also think Delap. I can't remember. Is it Rory Delap? No, Rory Delap is a lot older.
I think it's Liam Delap, and I think he is Rory Delap. Rory Delap is the long throw god.
Is it his dad? Are they related?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Oh my god! This podcast is also an educational piece because I didn't know that. But he looks like a bit of a monster up front, But Ipswich is also my team of positively surprised, because even though I was bigging them up at the beginning of the season, I thought they were going to struggle. But look, like you said, they've done very well. They have conceded more goals than Leicester, one of the other promoted teams, but they're out of the relegation zone. They look like they've got a plan, and it looks like Paul McKenna's, putting it into practice. So I'm very impressed. Additional shout out, and I'm going to eat my words. Now it's my turn, Stephen, and that is Nottingham Forest. I mean, I tipped them to go down, and currently they sit at seventh with 8 points and a goal difference of 2. Obviously, just beat Liverpool, which I don't think was a fluke. I agree with Alan Shearer. It wasn't a fluke, as he said on Match of the Day, but I think that was just a sign that Nuno still got it in terms of that how to win. It didn't work with Tottenham. It works at Wolves, and it's going to work at Forest. And I think that they could be really interesting. And I think Chris Wood, Alanga, Hudson-Odoi. I've got Nico Williams. I've got him. Then you've got Aina, Murillo. I think the defensive line is interesting, and they've also got that 4.5 midfielder who you could probably place in there as an alternative to Harry Winks, which of course everyone should own. I'm joking. That was a way to annoy Stephen. And my final team that I'm very impressed with, but more impressed, I did tip them before, but they've just been more consistent than I thought they'd be, and that's Brentford. You know, look, Tony's gone to play in empty stadiums for a lot of cash, and Brentford have got a bit of cash themselves for it. But it seems to me that the team's going to do all right. And they're currently sitting on ninth, 6 points, 4 played, 0 goal difference. They look good. You know, and Wemmer looks good. Wissa, I'm gutted for because he looked like he was putting on a real run together. They've just bought this kid from Liverpool, whose name escapes me right now. He seems like he slotted into the team nicely. Obviously, they had a tough game against City. Who wouldn't? But they, you know, when someone like Pep is giving your team praise, I think we all have to sit up and look. I believe that Henry's out injured for a lot longer. So they've got a few more interesting choices in the back line. And the next couple of teams they're playing are Spurs, West Ham, Wolves, Man United, and Ipswich. Not crazy good fixtures, but I think after the Tottenham game, they've got a really nice run. You know, with only Man United being a tough team, the rest of the teams are really winnable right until the end of November. After they've got over that hurdle, I think they're worth investing, and I think that they're just another really well-run club with some good players, and I'm very jealous of them.
The player you're referring to is Shada. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I do know that on the latest football managers, he becomes basically Lionel Messi. So maybe for that reason alone, he's worth looking into. We're not going to talk about Flecken again, and we've talked too much about him already on this podcast. But yeah, I like Shada. It looks like he's going to be starting a lot more with the Wissa industry. I imagine he's cheap, and I imagine he's low owned. Defensively, I'm not sure. I guess if you're looking at the back, you'd probably just go for Flecken as an option.
I mean, with Wissa out, I mean, it does give you quite a few other options in the defense. So in the attack, sorry. So you can definitely choose and look at that. But look, I think we've given you some ideas about where we're finished. I think we're going to do another pod later on the actual positionings of teams. I think we might do a top 6 and maybe a bottom 6. And of course, you can write your own opinions and comments in there. But we've been going on a bit, so it's time to introduce our news section. Now, that wasn't an impression from Scrubs. That was actually my impression of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So, what we're going to do... Yeah, wow. I know. So this is the section we're going to call Football Heritage. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a question every week. And it's going to be based off something that's happened at the weekend, but obviously not about the weekend. So it's going to be something that's happened in the past or a bit of trivia. The aim of this is basically to get you to think about things and answer questions and all the rest of it, and maybe share it amongst your friends when you realise some of the trivia. The question this week is around a number of yellow cards in a Premier League game. So you may have seen that Bournemouth Chelsea set a new record for number of yellow cards in a single Premier League game with 14. The question is, who previously held the record? And as a clue, they were only one short of that 14 on 13 yellow cards, 2 Premier League clubs. So who was involved in that clash in which 13 yellow cards were handed out, we should say? So yes, please give your answers in the comments on Twitter, on Instagram, and WhatsApp, wherever you send us your various lovely messages. But yeah, look, it's been a bit of a longer pod because we had to rant about the derby, so apologies for that. Thank you for the so many positive and helpful feedback that's been given to us. We really have been overwhelmed by how lovely you've all been. You know, I think me and Stephen just wanted a place to rant about our football opinions, but we're so blessed that so many of you want to listen to them. So yeah, look, all it says for me says thank you very much. I hope you have a good game week, and we will speak to you next week.
Thank you.
Cut. My wine is empty.